You heard the serious allegations made by the head of service, by the former head of service. What do you make of these allegations?
Actually, just like you said, allegations, it's those that could see through it, and also the subsequent videos that follows from his wife, you could see that that is it's a very sad one. It was a lot of us cringed while watching it, because a man that had that spent about 35 years of his life in public service to have such a terrible ending, because most of the allegations were baseless. What he read was, you're in the media, you can tell when something is coherent and when it's not. It was just like a terrible attempt to mismatch different MPs and have stuff like name calling. You know, we saw it for what it is, and I noticed that a huge number of Nigerians saw it for what it is. I can pick some holes there. Yesterday, I think the chief of staff to the governor was on air too, and most of those clarifications were made. Wike is just the head of the civil service. It has no connection whatsoever to politics. It has no connection whatsoever with the core running of government. You know, in fact, his interaction with the governor is on basis of appointment and where it has to do with civil service. You know, and so when he make some kind of claim that he was with the governor where they were making plans, I think he's thinking so highly of himself that to assume that Nigeria would take whatever he says verbatim. The claims are not even worthy to dive into, because it's very laughable. No, I don't know where a civil head of service will come to say that the governor told him, or that he was in the government house when they were received the governor of Bala Mohammed and they were planning. It's nowhere in this country would you see a head of service with such to be private of such information or have that exclusive access to the government. It's something to laugh over. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Oputa, I think being the #1 civil servant in the States, some persons will also say that it is not out of place to also see him, because Rivers State, of course, is like a civil servant state. So it will not be out of place to see the head of service around where the governor is. So it's dismissing what he has said and saying that he had a terrible ending might not be the factual thing if we are to go by what the other camp are saying. Now, take critical look of what the Supreme Court said in their ruling and also in the speech of Mr. President. It was actually contained that the governor was responsible, had something to do with the demolition of the House of Assembly. And over time, that allegation has not been refuted before the head of service is coming out now to establish this. How exactly would this go ahead to affect the peace you talked about in Rivers State?
First of all, one clarification I have to make is your reference to Rivers State as a civil service state. No, Rivers State is not all about civil service. Rivers State is one of the major commercial hubs of this country. And that, by the way, you know, there is a very big misconception about when you are in public, you know, when people drop things, a particular phrase, time over time, it sort of sticks. I can tell you categorically what people assume as a demolition of House of Assembly. There was no demolition of House of Assembly. Let me give you the fact. And in fact, it has been mixed up so terribly that people cannot even know the differences. What happened on the 29th of October 2023 was an arson attempt. The House of Assembly was on fire. And what led to that? We were told, even by the chief of staff, who was the leader of the house as it was constituted then, that the only people that had access to that assembly complex was the then Speaker, Martin Zameule, on the 29th of October, and that was on a Sunday. That matter has followed through judicial process, and there was an oath, a confession made on that oath by some of the witnesses, which happened to be the police officers of Nigerian police force, where they said that on that Sunday they gave access to the Speaker of the House of Assembly, then Martin Suke, with a convoy. Now, that notwithstanding, that incident happened. And that happened in October 29th. The governor arrived at that place on 30th of October in the morning. And he called for, investigations to be carried out. Going forward, you know how the political crisis lingered up until the president's intervention. The incident people are making reference to was the one that happened on the 13th of December. On the 11th of December, we saw the videos that went around, carried by many stations, of the defection of those lawmakers. On the 12th of December, Honorable Edison here, Right Honorable Edison here, emerged as the Speaker that was backed up by a court order from Justice Danagogo. On the 13th, given the structural damage through the fire incident and the deteriorated structure of that assembly, which has been so since 2021, and was referenced by the governor then, the current minister, who said that that assembly was not habitable, did not have the structure to conduct the business of legislature. And the governor, assuming that all has been well and we have to forge ahead, went in to resume the reconstruction of that House of Assembly. When the reconstruction process turned to demolition, that's why a lot of us are saying that Mr. President was misinformed.
All right, Mr. Oputa.
Construction equipment were moved to the site, tractors and all, and the burnt part was brought down. Are you going to build on burnt blocks? That process started. Mr. President said in his statement, which we know was out of misinformation by crisis entrepreneurs. He said the governor demolished the building and has refused to build it since then. But through the investigation and the on-the-spot assessments by the sole administrator, it was found that payment was done fully completed to the those carrying out the construction of the company, and it has gone. The construction have got up to 80% completion. So, at what do you refer as demolition? A governor that came there on the 13th of December to reconstruct a building that was destructed, that was burnt, and start a rebuilding process. Does that qualify as demolition to you? That is the misconception that has been sold to everybody. That the governor demolished House of Assembly. The governor demolished House of Assembly. Oh, it is false. The facts are there. And I think that's what investigative journalism is all about. Even if the entire country is being driving on the misconception, it's expected that, journalists can do their findings. Thank you.
All right.